Take out your bingo cards, folks, because today was everything bad we have seen about the 49ers all over again as they go to Miami and get pushed around and punked by the Miami Dolphins. We'll talk about it all on today's Gold Standard Instant Reaction Show. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Instant Reaction on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Networks. I'm Rob Stats Guerrero. 11 Black's going to hop in a minute. Niners game isn't officially over, but it is over in more ways than one. Not only were the Niners eliminated from playoff contention before the season began, they have been eliminated from victory in this game, not by injuries to the offensive line, not by yet another missed field goal from Jake Moody, not by Brock Purdy throwing stupid interceptions, although he did that too. Mostly, the 49ers were eliminated by their head coach, Kyle Shanahan, today. Kyle Shanahan is so afraid of everything, and it cropped up today with nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing to lose. You're eliminated from playoff contention. Nothing else bad can happen to you. Kyle Shanahan continues to coach and live in his fears, and it is infuriating. And he can sit there and talk about injuries and penalties and all this other stuff. And while that is true, it has certainly played a part in this game and this season. He wears the blame because the stuff that he can control, the game management, he's terrible at. He's terrible at, and it makes it harder for his team to win. And he does it constantly. I don't understand how he doesn't get it. First of all, first series of the entire game for the offense. They get the ball. They are driving down the field, working their way down the field. It's 4th and inches, 4th and 1 at the longest, at the San Francisco 39-yard line. And Kyle Shanahan punts the ball away. 4th and 1, 4th and inches. It was inches. It was so close. Kyle Shanahan punts the ball away with nothing to lose. You're already eliminated. You got running back 5 back there, right? You're half the team is like practice squad guys. And what are you doing? You're punting the football away. You're giving up on 4th and 1. The second I saw that, I was like, my God, it's going to be one of those days. And it was for the 49ers, as they not officially lost. They're in Miami territory now. Oh, it's 4th and 1. I wonder if I'm surprised he's not kicking the field goal. They are down by multiple scores. Kick it, Kyle. And you got to say, it was 49ers bingo today. It was 49ers bingo. Stupid penalties. Put a token down on the bingo card. Kyle Shanahan being a coward. Put a token down on the bingo card. Bad interception from Brock Purdy. Put a token down on the bingo card. It's everything we've seen all year long from this team. It's unbelievable. They still can't fix it. Brock almost just threw another pick 6, by the way, as we're joined by 11 Black. 11, what's up, man? How are you?
Terrible. I'm sick and getting worse. So it's gonna be a fun one.
Brock almost just threw another pick 6 in the game. I was just saying, it's 49ers bingo. It's every bad thing we've seen from the 49ers all over again. The only thing that was different was we got good Deebo Samuel this week, which to me just goes to show you can tell when Deebo Samuel gives a crap, basically. And it has nothing to do with the team. It's all about what's happening with Deebo, because he looked like the player of old today. He looked very, very good. But the 49ers as a team have been the same crappy team that we've seen all year long.
Yeah, Deebo finally was willing to take some hits. That's why Deebo showed up. It was, the beginning game plan wasn't very good. It was get everybody but Kittle the ball. And then they started going to Kittle, and the offense started moving. But once again, they got to the end of the game, and Brock forces something. I saw people wanting to react right away. Oh, he was hit when he was throwing. Yeah, that's true. But if you look at the pass, it was an accurate pass. Jennings would have caught it. There was just a defender directly in front of him the entire way. It was never open. It was completely forced. He stared down the receiver the whole time. And it is the number one thing I got a problem with when it comes to Brock Purdy. He's starting to have this trend of when the pressure's on, he forces it.
That's the guy we're giving $50 million to. That guy. Like, I'm tired of all these excuses. Oh, there was pressure from the offensive line. Dude, he threw the pick, okay? You got to put it on him. Doesn't mean he's the only one to blame. But as Warlock says, are we still giving Brock Purdy a big contract? I know that, like, when he came in, he played well against Miami 2 years ago, right? And then people, like, decided, okay, he's good. And so now anything that happened since then, they want to excuse away. Well, it was the offensive line. Well, guys are hurt. No, man, he's got to wear it. He's got to be responsible for all of it.
Yeah, it's not a good game for Purdy. It was an okay game until the end. It was an unspectacular game, but one that didn't have the mistakes. And then all of a sudden at the end of the game, he decided to just make mistake after mistake. I don't get it. It is whatever. Like I said, I'm willing to pay him something. I am not willing to give him top of the market. And if that means he demands a trade, then he demands a trade.
Warlock says, any chance Purdy can return the Toyota trucks and give his offensive line Tylenol and heat pads?
Can we? This has been driving me nuts all week. He didn't buy anybody a truck. He is the Toyota spokesman, and Toyota is an official NFL sponsor. That's why he keeps getting shown during games, because it is PR. Toyota bought advertising with the NFL.
It's possible. I mean, he certainly didn't.
It's 100%. He can't buy 10 trucks, even if they're the cheaper trucks at like $45,000. That's half his yearly salary.
Nathan Bobick says, never going to have sustained success with a mid quarterback. Jimmy showed us that. Brock showing us that. Made a Super Bowl when it went perfectly. Not the norm. I wouldn't say that it went perfectly, but I mean, again, 17 points in this game. 17 points. And I know there's context. I get it. All quarterbacks have context, though. That's the thing. So it's not all Purdy's fault, but he's the quarterback. And what do we say about quarterbacks? They get too much credit and too much blame. And he's got to wear some of that. Now, like I said, I put the blame first and foremost on Kyle Shanahan. I thought what he did at the end of that game was, on the first drive, I already talked about Levin. But, I mean, it's 19-17 Miami, okay? In the fourth quarter, there's 6 minutes and 45 seconds left. You're at your 37-yard line. It's 4th and 3, and you punt. Why? Why, Kyle Shanahan? I'm going to do my damnedest. I'm in agony right now because I had a situation over the weekend with my shoulder, but I'm going to do my damnedest to get on the conference call tomorrow and say, Kyle, why didn't you go for it on 4th and 3? Not did you consider it? Why didn't you? And when he gives his BS answer of, well, we got an offensive lineman, we're hurt, I'm going to say, Kyle, you didn't know you were ever going to get the ball back, and they got the ball, and they immediately scored more points to make you have to get a touchdown. Why not go for it? What do you have to lose at this point, Kyle? What's left? The playoffs are gone. The Super Bowl is gone. The division is gone. What's left?
Yeah, he also didn't go for it on a 4th and inches.
On the
which
first,
was probably a first down anyways.
Yeah, I think
that you could have challenged, but that gets into murky ground. It's hard to prove the ball actually crossed the line, but you go for it. If you can't get a QB sneak for a couple inches, you deserve to lose. You're not risking anything. If you can't get that kind of drive to get a couple inches, you're not going to win the game anyways.
If you're so scared to even try it. Like, again, you're making it harder for your team to win. And I get it, Kyle. Look, your strategy worked by his estimation, right? They got the ball back with 2 minutes and 10 seconds and all 3 timeouts and a chance to win the game. Yeah, guess what? You didn't even get to where you were when you turned it over. Actually, you know what? I think they might have. They got a little further. But basically, they got like 10 yards further than where they were before Brock threw the pick. I mean, it's got to change. It has to. I cannot believe he doesn't see it. So I'm going to do my best to try and explain it to him tomorrow.
Good luck with that. It's frustrating. I feel like where I'm at with Brock and kind of Kyle to a lesser extent, I want one more year before I have to make a decision. That's where I'm at. Like, I wish we had one more year before we had to make the decision on whether or not to pay, because I have seen mistakes that I didn't see in previous years, and he hasn't been able to fix them. He's getting worse, if not, if anything. And how much of it is defense is adjusted? How much is it he's just missing everybody? I do think that is a big factor. He's missing a lot of his offensive line and a lot of his star players. Most quarterbacks are going to struggle in that situation, but that doesn't explain away the forces. And that's really where he deserves to be hammered. He's forcing the ball. He's staring somebody down. It's not open, and he still throws it. Why? Like, how do you not see the guy right there? I don't understand. That's something that the offensive line and missing key players doesn't factor into that. You seeing a defender directly in front of your receiver has nothing to do with who the receiver is.
Or you're in the red zone on third down and you stare down George Kittle and the defender knows exactly where you're going with the ball and sticks his hand in the air and knocks it down when it should have been a wide open touchdown. Now, part of that is also Colton McKivitz getting
I was going to say, Colton McKivitz has to know where that ball is going and say, this is getting out quick. I absolutely can't allow myself to get pushed back. So I am going to move forward some and not just drop back into my quarterback's lap when I know he's going to be throwing right down my lane, trying to throw right over my shoulder. It's just, Colton McKivitz sucks, and I want to see this offensive line change.
Nicholas says, Moody sucks. Training staff is one of the worst in the league. Give Purdy a $5 an hour raise. Trade Deebo while stock is high. Bring in a draft expert. Well, they just had a really good draft, so let's be fair. Dallas E., how can Moody still be on this team? I mean, he missed a 41-yard field goal. Dude, it's Miami. It's 70 degrees. It's perfect weather. You suck. Like, he sucks. He's got to go. Nobody's.
Yeah, I don't see him being around this offseason. I think maybe they keep him, but they bring somebody else in, and the writing's on the wall that he's going to be moved on from it. I've always been a fan of, and they did it for the most part in our tenure as fans, to pay a veteran, pay an older veteran that the current team doesn't want anymore. Did it with David Akers, did it with Robbie Gould, did it with Phil Dawson. They worked out. All those were successful. David Akers imploded after a record-setting season, but all of those worked out. So to me, that's the route I would rather go. Give me the safe, good, not great kicker, that's available in free agency over drafting, because it's such a crapshoot. I mean, the highest drafted kickers in league history, most of them didn't do well. Even Janikowski, who was the one first-round pick, you go look at his statistics, he wasn't that good. It's just that he played with the Raiders, so it didn't matter. He made less than 80% of his kicks in his career. He's not a good kicker.
Let's get to some more super chats. Greg S. says maybe he wanted to let his friend win or get a higher draft pick. Yeah, that's it. Kyle's not going for it on fourth down because he's trying to elegant tank. Andre says Kyle has regressed. Brock's arm is trash and should not be paid like a franchise quarterback. His Disney story has come to an end. Weak-armed quarterback can't carry a team. Like you said, Levin, it was never open. Yeah, he got hit when he threw it. The guy was there the whole time. It was
an accurate throw.
Right.
Jennings would have caught that in stride if it wasn't intercepted. The throw is not affected by him getting hit.
Corey says Kyle could have run a fake punt on fourth down. When was the last time he did that? Well, he already announced to the world he's never going to run a fake punt. Because he said, if you're going to go for it on fourth down, why not go for it with your offense? So he's already told the entire league that he'll never go for it with a fake punt. Perfect Blackness says the interception was bad, but the play call was even worse. That play call is evidence that Shanahan is more of an ideologue than head coach Shanny used Purdy's legs. I don't agree with that. I mean, I think the play call was fine. Just don't throw an interception. Like, let's not overcomplicate this.
Yeah, I can't tell from what we saw whether or not the play call was fine. Like, I can't tell if people were open on the other side of the field or what. But simple fact is, Purdy stared a receiver down and threw it to the receiver when there was a DB directly in the path of that receiver. Like, he couldn't even have seen Jennings clearly because he would have to have seen through somebody's body because the defender was right there. I don't get it. He had to have panicked and said, I can't take a sack.
And we've seen Brock Purdy multiple times at the end of the game this year throw interceptions on a drive where the Niners got to have it, right? They got to have it on this drive. He did it against the Cardinals. He did it today. Those are just the two that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm sure there's another, dude, it's like he doesn't do the things that he normally does during the game in those situations. And he can sit there and say, well, I got to play with a chip on my shoulder like he did this week. Dude, you got to play better. Play better. Or don't ask for $50 million.
Yeah, I think that negotiation is going to be one that 49er fans don't feel great about, because I feel like Kyle Shanahan and the team is very much in, we're paying him. And he's
Right.
going to get, 55, 60 million a year.
Oh yeah. They've already decided.
Yeah. I think they made that decision a long time ago, and it's going to be us fans that are going, wow, you really did that.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be terrible, because this is it. This is where they are. Like, and teams do this. I don't understand how teams do this, Levin. The Jags just did it with Trevor Lawrence. The Giants did it with Daniel Jones. Like, you pay this guy. It's like, why are you paying? This guy has shown you who he is. Why is that enough? What has he done to show you that it's enough? And I'm sorry, Brock has not done enough. He just hasn't. And if he wants to play next year under his current deal, great. If not, goodbye. Okay? Goodbye.
Yeah, I'm not in that boat. It's funny. If he reversed his career, you would be wanting to pay him. If this was his rookie year, and then the second year was last year, and his final year was the first year when he lit the league on fire, you'd be like, oh my God, we got the guy. He's a godsend. You know what I mean? I would pay him within reason, but I want an out. Like, I'm okay with them saying, look, we're going to pay you. We're going to give you something like Tua money, but there will be an out.
If you need an out, you don't have the guy. You think the Chiefs put an out in Mahomes' contract?
No. That's a one of like 5 quarterbacks in the league that are good enough for that. You could pay somebody that you're unsure on, but you've seen enough to think that there's a possibility there, as long as you have outs that allow you out of that contract if it proves that he's not in. Don't forget how bad it can be. Quarterbacks are much harder to find that are Brock Purdy's caliber.
We're still looking for one. That's the point.
No, I'm saying it's hard to find a quarterback of Brock Purdy's caliber. That is not easy to do. Now, is he good enough? I don't know, but he is a quarterback that doesn't come around all that often for you. It is hard to get a starting caliber quarterback in this league. You miss more often than you make, even with first-round picks.
Missing is better than paying a guy that's not it. That's the difference. That's why I'm okay getting rid of Purdy. Missing is better than paying a guy that's not it. And by the way, I just lost the comment. Oh, Jason Lewis says, Kyle stands blaming another quarterback. I started the show saying Kyle is the most responsible for this loss. So maybe you joined late, you didn't see that, but Kyle is the most responsible for this loss. But Purdy also has to take the blame. Let me see if
maybe it's because I'm sick. Maybe it's because the Niners lost and I'm just more cranky than normal, but comments like that drive me nuts. You tuned in for what? 2 minutes of a show, and you want to put a label on us where, okay, if you haven't watched us before, then don't try to put a label on us. But if you have watched us before, you obviously know that we are not Kyle stans. I criticize Kyle. I have said that I think his seat should be warm to a degree. You're a little bit more favorable to Kyle than I am, but you're no like Kyle, you're not David Lombardi. I can't stand people tuning in for a 5-minute segment and wanting to instantly judge everything about the people that they're watching.
Andre says, if this is the kind of performance from your quarterback, there's zero reason to pay him top dollar. You either have a franchise guy or you don't. Keep looking. Dallas E says this team is not close anymore. Why pay anyone at this point? Let's talk about this game a little more. We can get back to the Kyle Brock discussion. I was very upset. Dre Greenlaw lasted a grand total of 4 plays. Now, I believe the calf that he injured is not the calf that he had the surgery on.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, man. I don't know that I need to be paying Dre Greenlaw to bring him back. He can't stay on the field. He can't, whether it's the Achilles or another injury, he can't stay on the field, and he can't help the team from the training room.
That is a very interesting topic for this offseason. Do you pay Dre Greenlaw? Because he's phenomenal, all-pro caliber if he's on the field. But at this point, do you know that you're still getting that player? I don't. Do I think that there is a team out there that will pay him big money? I do. Houston, Miami would be, suspects 1 and 2 because of the connections there. But I look at it as, look what happened with Quan Alexander. Somebody that made a Pro Bowl, hurt his knee, and got at the time, the highest contract a linebacker had ever gotten when the Niners signed him. That's coming off a major injury. So Dre Greenlaw is kind of in a similar boat. So I do think that there's going to be a team that comes offering him. I don't think he'll get quite top of the market because Achilles is a little more of a gray area. But I do think somebody's going to give him like a $3 or $4 million deal that's just below the top of the market. And if I'm the 49ers, I can't match that.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely. Again, I love Dre. I think he's the heart and soul of the defense, but I can't keep you if you're going to not play on the field. I like Derek Armstead too, but the reason they got rid of him is because you couldn't rely on him on the field anymore.
I would pay him something. Like I would give him a contract similar to what he has.
If he wants that, yeah, but
I mean, I would give him something like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but like something in the 9, maybe up to $10 million a year range. I would be willing to give him.
If he played for something close to what he's playing for now, 100%, but I wouldn't pay anything close. Like if any other team is involved, no thanks. Perfect Blackness Senior, thank you very much for the super chat. I'm going to need it after I spent Saturday morning in the emergency room. Perfect Blackness Senior says, no stats. Shanahan refused to adjust to the situation. The offensive line was paper and played like it, yet Shanny's play call was as if the O-line was healthy. He needed to move the pocket, and he didn't, period. Well, maybe on that play, he didn't move the pocket. I agree with you. But I think you saw 11, especially in the second half when Spencer Burford was at left tackle. Romo even said it's like a screen off. They were running screen passes and quick passes because I think of the offensive line situation.
For the 49ers, yeah. Plus it was working. But yeah, the offensive line can't be trusted to hold up for the 15, 20-yard routes. You just can't trust that. It's not going to work consistently. You're going to have a play where your quarterback gets sacked and the drive gets destroyed if you keep trying to make those calls. It's one of those like probability things. Can you call those plays and find success? Yeah. But 1 out of 4, you're going to end up sacked, and the 1 out of 4 destroys your drive, so you can't do it.
Yep, kills the drive. Exactly. Or Ricky Pearsall doesn't know how to line up on the line of scrimmage. Like, can we talk about that too for a second?
Yeah.
I love Ricky Pearsall, but dude, this is, to quote Kyle Shanahan, this is basic stuff. Can you do it? Like Tony Romo explained it on the broadcast. There has to be 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. 5 of those guys are your offensive linemen. So you look on your side of the field. Is anybody else lined up on the line of scrimmage? If the answer is no, you line up on the line of scrimmage. Like, that's something that's completely controllable, Ricky Pearsall. It's not knowing the playbook. It's not, what do I do against this coverage? It's not, what do I do against this corner? My notes. I'm on the line of scrimmage. And by the way, you already got one of those penalties in the game. And then you got another one that negated a great play by Deebo that would have set the Niners up to score a touchdown. And instead they get no points because Jake Moody misses the goddamn field goal.
I completely agree that no excuses for Pearsall there. But I do have to say others share blame on the second one. It's a rookie who missed all of the important time.
Mm-hmm.
After it happens the first time, double check before you snap the damn ball.
Well, that's
how is Deebo and Jennings not looking over there and saying, hey, step up? How is Purdy not looking over there before he snaps the ball? So there is some blame here on the veterans. That is a rookie who missed all the important time. So it's not completely on him. If you want to say the first one's on him, fine. The second one is shared because the veteran should have said, clearly he's off right now. He's a little confused. Let's double check him before we snap the ball again.
Like all of the 49ers problems this year, right? There's one person who's most responsible, but the blame goes around. It's a great point, especially for your quarterback. Like your quarterback, I'm sorry, man, especially if you want $60 million, that comes with it. To whom much is given, much is required. And yeah, Brock should have double checked.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I will say I give Pearsall a pass for this season for obvious reasons of what happened, but I'm not seeing much after the catch. I'm seeing
yak guy.
Yeah, he's not. Well, that's what people thought he was. I don't see the power. He does not have enough power to be a yak guy. The first guy drives him backwards.
And like, that's okay. Not every guy has to be a yak guy. I still think there can be a place for you. Can you separate? Can you get open? Can you catch the football? But yeah, he's not much after the catch. Timbo throws DG. Yo, stats, get the stream numbers up and link with Grant. I saw a lot of Grant talk in the chat. I'm just going to say this one more time again. Like, there's no ill will between me and Grant. None. I'm not mad at him. I don't consider him an enemy. I've said many times I'm grateful for all the help he has given me. but it's over, guys. That's it. It's over. Like, you can keep bringing it up, but it's not going to happen. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biting my tongue, but you got people saying that you owe Grant an apology. I'll say, I'm just going to say one thing. Stats is not the one that went and blocked the other one on Twitter. Okay.
No, there's no apology. We had a very civil conversation. No, I mean, when I told him I didn't want to stream with him, I'm not the one that ended the show on his own. Also, no. Speaker says, love you guys, but they're going to pay him. Move on, please. I agree. They are going to pay him. Real OBJ CDT says, in 94, the Niners lost to the Cowboys in the championship game to a backup quarterback with Young throwing a costly interception. He also sucked in the 92 and 93 playoffs without knowing he'd win in 95. Do you keep him? Are we really comparing Steve Young to Brock Purdy now? Multiple MVP winner Steve Young to Brock Purdy? The guy that when he retired had the highest quarterback rating of all time to Brock Purdy? Is that the guy we're comparing? Because if it is, I don't think you saw Steve Young play.
I get the point he's trying to make. It's just not a good example because Steve Young, as you said, by that point, he had already won an MVP. So you have an MVP quarterback who struggled in the playoffs. It's like a Lamar situation. Are you getting rid of that quarterback? Hell no, you're not getting rid of that quarterback. You just hope they figure things out in the playoffs, and then it's a small sample size type thing.
And by the way, those Dallas Cowboy teams are some of the greatest teams in the history of the NFL. It's not like struggling against the Chargers in the playoffs.
Well, I'll say this. Aikman is probably the most overrated quarterback of all time. The guy was not a great quarterback. Sorry. He was carried. He had one 3,000-yard passing season. One. I think he had three 3,000-yard passing seasons. He had one season with more than 20 passing touchdowns. One. Right. Like, the guy was carried. He is the ultimate game manager. He got loaded onto one of the best teams of all time, and he was able to ride it to multiple Super Bowls, so he got in the Hall of Fame, but the guy was not that great.
Yeah, he had 5 seasons over 3,000 yards, never threw for, or one season with 23 touchdowns. And I know it was a different league, so the touchdown numbers are skewed, but that's still low.
That's still bad. I mean, Steve Young was getting 30 almost every season back then. So
JCG says, ignorance is bliss. I didn't watch today's game. Speaker says, let's analyze the likely situation that they pay Brock instead of talking about what we would do because they're paying him. We need to accept that. Again, I've said many times, I agree with you. They are going to pay him. I just don't think that they should. Chris Waddell, thank you so much for the super chat, says there's absolutely no way they can give Purdy a massive contract. He simply does not raise the level of his teammates. Pre-snap BS, holding the ball too long, never throws it away. They give him a massive deal. We will be the Cowboys.
I don't necessarily disagree.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tricky situation. That's why I want it out. You pay him, but if he doesn't get back to what he was last year, then you can move on and you can go draft somebody or by some luck, some good quarterback out there in free agency.
Perfect Blackness Senior says the Pearsall et al. Pick is proof that Shanahan needs to have his personnel powers taken. He needs to take a vacation during the draft. It's hard to say that after they just had arguably their second best draft ever. 2019, they got Deebo, Greenlaw, and Bosa. So that's got to be their best draft ever. But
I don't know how much Kyle has in terms of draft say when it comes to defensive players, but there is a very good argument that Kyle should not be allowed to evaluate offensive players, which is ironic. But the guys' offensive picks have not just been bad; they have been the worst picks in their regime. They've been some of the worst picks in the last decade of the NFL. You got
Joe Williams.
Yeah. You have Trey Lance as well. You think Kyle didn't get to pick his quarterback there?
I agree.
Like, Kyle, I don't think is very good at evaluating offensive talent, which is weird. But he does. I think he probably is pretty good at evaluating defensive talent because I think when he looks at offensive talent, he doesn't look at who's a great player. He looks at, who could fit my system and play the way I want you to play. And you're getting too specific and you're passing up the better talent to try to get somebody that's perfect fit for you. And then when it turns out they're not talented enough or they're not quite as much of a fit as you thought because it's still a crapshoot, you're still guessing at whether or not that player is truly a fit and has the right mentality for your system. It's just I think it's a poor way of going about it. That's my best guess at what he does. And what you should do is say, I'm getting the best talent. and I will make them fit. I will change to fit them if they're good enough.
Kyle was asked, do you need to reinvent yourself next season? I thought he actually gave a pretty good answer, which he tried to argue, I have tried to reinvent myself. And he brought up like the Trey Lance, like using the quarterback runs with Trey Lance when they got Trey. It's going to be an interesting thing to see if anything drastic does change this offseason. Let's get to one more super chat, and then we'll get to some of the post-game stuff. Speaker says Brock Purdy's first 3-year comp is early breeze, in my opinion. I would say hell no to that. I don't think he's nearly as accurate as Drew Brees was. Just because they're both short white guys, I don't see it.
No. You probably, I'm just guessing you don't realize Brees' first 3 years. Brees' first 3 years is why they drafted Rivers.
Yeah, I know. But
then he had a Pro Bowl year and got hurt, and they ended up moving on and making the pick. But his first 3 years was very up and down. There were flashes, but he forced the ball too much. There were a lot of times, like you would see a flash, and then he would have another play where it was just like, what are you doing? Why are you forcing that? So I do see that comparison being a decent comparison. I would say that's a bit of a slight to Purdy, because Purdy's been a lot better than Brees' early years when he was struggling to beat out Doug Flutie.
Brees is a better passer. Brees is way more accurate than Brock Purdy.
Brees is the most accurate passer in NFL history.
Let's throw up some injury news coming out of the game. And I know
there's a lot.
Doesn't quite have the same impact because we know the 49ers are out of the playoffs. But according to Kyle Shanahan, Aaron Banks probably suffered an MCL injury. That's not great. Greenlaw's right calf, he felt tightness. Again, like, what are we doing here? Then just sit him the rest of the way. Leonard Floyd had a shoulder, but he returned. Jalen Moore has a quad injury. Aaron Banks, the MCL, we said. And D. Winters has a chest injury. Winters is banged up a lot too, Levin.
Yeah.
As much as I'm hoping that he becomes linebacker too, I feel like every game he plays, he gets hurt coming out of it.
Yeah, sorry. My cold is hitting me there.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I would say what this team really needs to do is go out and spend some money on linebacker. If you want to bring Dre Greenlaw back and he's affordable, that's fine. But you can't count on it, and you can't count on D. Winters developing as the backup because he can't stay healthy. You have to go out and you have to get somebody. Either draft a second-round pick, a third-round pick maybe even, or I would prefer don't take the reclamation project route of, oh, here's a guy that was really good. We're hoping he has something left. That's the Devondre Campbell route. Go out and get the guy that's a starter in the league, but maybe not that great. He's borderline, but he's a safe, reliable, unspectacular veteran that you can count on, that has a strong history of being healthy. And those guys, every year, there's like 10 of them that hit free agency. You know what I mean? There's plenty of those that should be available.
They're going to need to, sadly. D. Winters, I wish he could stay on the field, but he has really struggled in that area. Chad Kirkman, YouTube channel member, thank you very much, Chad, says Nick Sorensen's defense is also giving up an average of, I think,
I'm guessing 10 points.
Yeah, 10. The 1 is right above the Q on the keyboard. So we'll say 10 points in the fourth quarter, and we rank 31st after being first last year. The defense has had its issues this year. And, looking at this defense, I mean, they had Mooney Ward. They had Hufanga. They had Malik Mustafa. Bosa played. Warner played. I know Greenlaw went out. Gross Matos was in there. Leonard Floyd was there. It was a mostly healthy defense, and they played well for most of the game. But at the end of the game, they gave up points. They gave up a 50-yard touchdown to Achane at the end of the game. Yeah, like it's not good. There's no part of this team that's good right now.
I mean, Romo was harping on it. They're running to the same gap. Whether it's the screen or actual runs, they're going to the same gap. So go ahead and go to that gap because they're coming that way. You know what I mean? And they just kept not doing it. It wasn't a bad defensive performance. It was one that lacked the big plays. I think that's what it was. It lacked the sacks. It lacked the turnovers.
You get a turnover in like the
right
month.
They held up pretty well, but they didn't get the big plays that were difference makers. And I mean, did you even hear Nick Bosa's name?
Although, to be fair, I think this offense, it's hard to sack Tua in general because all they do is, side note, why the hell would the Miami Dolphins pay Tua that money? You don't need any quarterback in that offense. All they do is throw 5-yard passes and screens. Okay, whatever. But it makes it hard to sack him. Shout out to the Dave and Doc podcast. Thank you very much for the super chat. Love those guys. Haven't talked to them in a little while, but thank you. We appreciate the support. Speaking of support, Jay Morris, thanks for the $2. Grant knows the fake and not Homer fans like you. That is hilarious that you think I'm a Homer fan, because everybody says I'm too negative. Now I'm negative and a Homer. I'm a negative Homer, Levin.
Grant and Rob don't really have that big of a beef. I can't stand Grant. So it's best we move on from Grant, because I'm going to end up saying stuff. I couldn't stand him pretty much the entire time you were doing the show with him. So he is not my cup of tea. I think he's superficial, and I hate that.
Ethan Parrish says Kyle chose Hoyer over Cap and then drafted Lance. LOL, still have faith though. Well, technically, yeah, that's true. We did choose Hoyer over Kaepernick. I would have been fascinated to see Colin Kaepernick in the Shanahan offense. I think it was fun as hell.
He's not accurate enough. That's
maybe, but I would have liked the mobility there. I don't know. I would
Kyle wants very consistent, accurate thrower. Doesn't need the spectacular, and that's the exact thing that Kaepernick wasn't. He was not consistent. He was not a great thrower consistently, but he had spectacular plays every single week.
I would have liked to see it. Certainly more than Hoyer. I understand why Kyle did it. Like, you want your guy, your quarterback that knows the system, but I thought it would have been fun to see. Chris Waddell. What's up, Chris? Thank you very much for that. Says, I say run this quarterback one more time, but with Cousins at quarterback. If struggling at the deadline, jump everything or as many vets as possible for any picks, blow it up and rebuild like the Rams did. I'm past the run it back.
Yeah.
I'm past it. We've tried it too many times. I can't watch.
I'm also past the Kirk Cousins. Like, is Kirk Cousins better than Brock Purdy? No, he's not. He's not better. And if he's not better, then what's the point?
I would agree. I was just reading David Lombardi's tweet here. Shanahan confirmed what was obvious on the first watch with Purdy's interception. He was trying to layer a throw, but was unable to when Calais Campbell came in unblocked up the middle and drilled him. He's not going to be able to layer it. The defender is there with depth. He's there.
Yeah, it's just a terrible throw. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Brock's one of his strengths, the thing that he uses to compensate for his lack of arm strength, is supposed to be intelligence decision-making, right? He's not making good decisions. And when you combine bad decisions with an arm that is not, that is average at best, that's what you get.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Damn it, Levin. Can I get one you're right out of you before the end of the show?
No.
Jerk.
If we're doing a show on Thursday, maybe I'll give you a belated Christmas present.
Okay. Wow, lucky. Hey, do you have the present that I sent you? Is it in
the notepad?
Yeah.
It's not in front of me. It's in my office.
Well,
I don't write down notes sitting in front of me while I'm on air.
Oh,
I write them down in my office when I'm doing work.
JCG 1987 says the 49ers will use Hargrave as an excuse to not go after the big fish. With Brock's potential contract, they're the new Saints. Big contracts, no results. I think they'll be able to, the Saints are screwed. I don't think they're going to be in as bad a situation as the Saints. But I do think that it puts such a huge importance on the draft class, because that's really their best shot for talent. They can sign some guys in free agency, but you can't go out and give a mega contract. It's going to have to be through the draft. Now, you could hit some home runs in the draft, and you can get guys that way outplay their contracts. And hopefully the Niners do. And I think they're going to have to if they're going to contend, not only in the NFC, but just in the NFC West.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC West is up and coming. I guess I shouldn't quite say that. Arizona is better than they have been. Not that they're great. They lost today in overtime to Carolina. Seattle is still treading water, where they're a dangerous team that can beat anybody but also lose to terrible teams. And the Rams are definitely up and coming, although they have a very limited clock because of Stafford.
Right. It depends on what he does. Seattle lost to Minnesota today. Geno Smith threw a hideous interception at the end of that game. Oh, man.
I will say that in terms of Brock, I'm leaning more towards, it was an idea that I had, I think, just last week with you. But now it's starting to be my favorite route, which is trade Brock for a first-round pick, draft a quarterback in the first round.
I'd be fine with that. Ryan Alloy says Purdy needs an elite offensive line. Kyle is stubborn and will never prioritize O-line. We all see how this will play out. Right now, to be somewhat fair, the offensive line today was, Swiss cheese by the end of that game. You had two guys starting on the left side that had no business being in there. But it's not like the guys that were there were particularly great. Brendel is awful. Center is such a huge priority for this team in the offseason. I didn't think that I thought Pooney was fine today because he's always fine because I love that man. But like we were just talking about Geno Smith, and a thought just popped into my head. If the news broke tomorrow, Seahawks signed Geno Smith $50 million a year for the next 5 years, would you as a Niner fan be happy, or would you be like, oh man?
Neither. It'd be meh.
Exactly.
Be a shoulder shrug. It's not a terrible contract, but it's also he's not that great, so I'm kind of happy that they're not shooting for the stars.
That's exactly how every team in the division would feel when the Purdy contract comes out. I'll have people on. I'll talk to Jake Ellenbogen, who covers the Rams. I'll talk to Dan Viennes, who covers the Seahawks. I'll bring them on. You worried? How do you feel today? You know what they're going to say? And I don't want the as my quarterback. I don't want I want damn.
Yeah, but you could spend 30 years and not find that, which the Niners are approaching.
Okay. I don't want, at least, because if I'm looking, there's a possibility of striking gold. If I'm not looking, I'm not going to strike gold. Gold doesn't just fall from the ceiling. You got to go out and find it.
So as the person that kept preaching, enjoy this, it's not that bad, at the beginning of the year when I was coming off a Super Bowl, and that was kind of your refrain all through the offseason, then it was a great season and all that stuff. If signing Purdy means the Niners win 13 games and at least one playoff game, but it guarantees they don't win a Super Bowl, based on what you were saying, you would sign up for that because that doesn't come around very often.
No, because there was no, you're telling me it's guaranteed they don't win. I would never do that. If you told me they could have Patrick Mahomes, but it was guaranteed they never win a Super Bowl, I would never take that.
Well, Patrick Mahomes isn't that great right now. It's so infuriating watching their games. I'm sorry. It's a side tangent, but I'm just done watching Chiefs. I will literally turn it off. I don't turn the NFL off for anything. I watch pretty much every game I possibly can. I will not watch Chiefs games anymore because it is blatant what the NFL is doing.
Jonathan Marsh says, Merry Christmas, guys. Will we win another game? It's quite possible we don't.
One.
You think they're beating the Cardinals?
One. I'm not going to predict who this team could be because I have no idea what team is going to show up week to week. But they will show up and win one of the games.
They're going to get slaughtered next week against the Lions. They're going to get absolutely slaughtered. The BS report says, stats considering how high we will be drafting and the fact that you believe we need to keep searching a quarterback, would you use a first-round pick in this draft on one? Okay. In theory, yes, but I want to say this. I never pretend to be a draft guy. Like, I don't know who's good in the draft, who's not. I barely watch college football. I really just am on the periphery of it. I do study guys a little bit, and I try to listen to what people say once we get to draft season. But, like, I can't even tell you right now who the top quarterback is supposed to be in the draft.
You know who the top quarterback is supposed to be.
No.
And it's the one I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because of his father.
No, Arch is not going to be in the draft this year, is he?
It's Sanders.
Oh, Shedeur Sanders. Okay, yeah, that's true. I wouldn't want that either.
I wouldn't.
Kyle will never.
It's not because of him. It's because the father is never going to not meddle. The father is going to speak and be meddling kind of. It's reminiscent of the Ball fathers, if you know basketball. It's just not a situation I care to deal with. If I'm a head coach or a GM, it's the player's great, but I'm not dealing with having a person outside of this organization constantly wanting to weigh in through the media on what we should be doing.
That would just add a level of annoyance to the whole thing. LJL2685 says, trade Deebo and Brock to move up for a high first to get a quarterback. If you could, which quarterback would you take? Yeah, so again, like same vein, I can't give you an answer. And I never promise 100% accuracy on the show, but I promise 100% authenticity. I could say a name, but I would be completely pulling it out of my ass, and I don't want to do that. I don't know. to be honest. But in theory, yes, I would absolutely consider that as a viable plan for the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm torn. The draft is such a crapshoot, but at least I'd be excited, assuming they move on from Purdy. I don't want them mortgaging, like trading their first and, doing the Trey Lance type trade to get to like 10th and draft a quarterback. I don't want that. If you're going to spend that high of a draft pick on a quarterback, he needs to be the unquestioned leader. Don't keep Brock Purdy around. Don't do the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. Give that rookie the reins and be done with it.
As I said when Trey was here, you can't move the new girlfriend into the apartment with the old girlfriend still living there.
That is the legitimate possibility. The Niners could give Purdy some kind of like hedged contract where Purdy gets some pay, but they can move on from him if they want to. And they are going to be within striking range of trading up to 6-7 range if they wanted to trade multiple firsts to get there. So they could keep Purdy and trade what's probably going to be somewhere in the early teens draft pick. Maybe they get as high as 10th and get one of the top quarterbacks. Like, I don't want that.
Well, here's the thing, though, Levin. Right now, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but right now, I think the Niners are at 11. Yeah. They could have a quarterback fall to them without trading anybody or doing anything.
And then, I would be on board with that.
Yeah, then the question becomes, let's say you're the 49ers and you're like, all right, we're not going to move up for a quarterback, but then one is sitting right there. And you do have these questions about Brock. Now, look, I hope that they should, first for the record, they should have decided on Brock well before the draft. So maybe it's not going to be an issue because they will have either paid him or not. So it won't be a question. It'll either be an easy decision if somebody were to fall to them. But if they do their typical thing where they're hemming and hawing and who knows, and a quarterback just happens to be there, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the 49ers draft room.
It's going to depend on the contract Purdy gets. If he gets a contract where there's not really an out for 3-4 years, they're not drafting anybody. If he gets a contract that gives them an out within 1 year, or he's not signed and negotiations have gone south, then that becomes a legitimate possibility.
CDZ909 says Kyle would draft a wide receiver that should be drafted in the 3rd round, but that's his guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he drafted Pearsall where he drafted him because he was so convinced he fits what the Niners need so well that he couldn't afford passing him up. And that's the type of mentality I think is a mistake in the draft. You just draft the best talents. You make some choice on position. Position and your actual needs does factor into it, but you're taking the best talent, period. It doesn't matter fit.
Well, and the Niners have so many needs too. It's like pretty much throw a dart and you hit a position of need. So yeah, take the talented guy and chances are that's going to be a need for you. Last thing I want to get to, because I mentioned it a couple times, you could see on the stream, I got my right arm in a sling tonight. I spent Saturday morning in the emergency room. I had a rotator cuff injury.
Did your neighbor come get you?
My neighbor? No, why?
Yeah, you were having that spat with your neighbor. Did he come get you with his shovel?
No, although he did clear his driveway out before me last time it snowed, that jerk. But yeah, so I have a nerve, like basically a pinched nerve, more or less, in my shoulder, and it was on fire Saturday night. Finally, I could not take it anymore. 3:30 in the morning, I got up and I told my wife, I got to go to the emergency room. Drove to the ER. They gave me many, many drugs, which was so nice because I was in agony. Like I was writhing around. It was so bad. And I've been in agony for the past 2 days. So I really needed a 49er win today. So I may be doing fewer pods this week. Not only is it Christmas, but also because I can't move my right arm without blinding pain. So I apologize for that. I'm going to do as many and as much as I can, but I do kind of have to take it easy. My wife's picking up all the slack around the house, so I may have to just...
That's nothing new. Come on now.
Shut up. Andre says, did you have an MRI? Not yet. I had an X-ray. I got to go for physical therapy, and hopefully we can get back to having 2 arms again. But yeah, that's the situation there. So if you see fewer pods or fewer live streams, please know it's not me slacking off because the Niners suck. It's just I can't use half my friggin' arm. So Christopher Johnson, thank you very much, says, that's zero excuse for Ricky Pearsall. If you've played football before, you signal to the ref and tell them if you're on or off the line. They will adjust you. It has zero to do with being a rookie. Wide receivers do it every play. I agree. Yeah, he's missed time, and that might be part of it because he's got a lot going through his head. But you still got to do the basics. You still have to do the basics. And
I think it's a little more complicated than that because the Niners have so much motion. And if you watch that motion, if a wide receiver goes in motion, you'll see another wide receiver potentially step up to the line. And so it changes. What I'm getting at is what wide receiver needs to be on the line of scrimmage changes for the 49ers depending on the play. Sometimes it's the far outside guy to the left. Sometimes it's the far outside guy to the right. Sometimes it's the slot guy, which Pearsall has been mostly. So that I think that's what happened is that Pearsall thought one of the other wide receivers was going to be on the line, but obviously it was his mistake.
And we saw it too many times in this game, 11. Pearsall, multiple illegal formation penalties, defensive guys lining up in the neutral zone, illegal formation.
The personal fouls were really bad too.
Personal foul, undisciplined, unforced errors by the 49ers all day today. They were riddled with it. They had, I think, 12 penalties in the game. Normally, they only average 5.9 penalties per game. So maybe the team was just like, they just found out right before kickoff that they were eliminated. I don't know. But 11 penalties for 90 yards in the game.
It can get worse, though. I don't know if you saw the end of the Giants game. Probably not because it was a blowout, but I
didn't see it.
Watching, waiting. The Giants had 6 offensive penalties on the same drive.
Holy hell.
They got to the red zone. They actually scored a touchdown, got it called back for holding, then a false start, then a delay of game. Then I think there was a second holding, and then there was some other things that happened on that same drive. I think before they got to the red zone, they had a penalty or two, and they were able to overcome them.
Well, there you go. There's our silver lining for the end of the show. We're not the Giants. Hooray. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate it. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard 49ers audio podcast wherever you get your audio pods. I love seeing people send us the Spotify Wrapped with the crazy numbers in there. Thank you so much. You don't know how much that means to us. We do work hard at this for you. It's nice to see that you are enjoying it. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Click the bell so you get notified when we're live. We're live every single weekday. And we do a 5-minute news update in the weekday mornings that gets you caught up on everything you need to know. So please, thank you for joining us, and please give us a chance. I promise you, we won't let you down, although you are joining at a bit of a low point for the team. But get through these last 2 weeks. It's going to be very interesting in 49ers land.
You know what you need, Stats?
What?
You need that old guy with the really big glasses that comes in Toy Story 2 that repairs Woody's arm.
Yeah.
That's what you need. He needs to stitch you back together.
Honestly, on Saturday night, if I could have ripped it off to stop the pain, I would have done it. That's how bad it was. So whatever. At this point, I'm desperate. We'll see. Hopefully I can get it worked out. But try to enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.